Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I want to talk about this letter, this email I get. So every day, as a broker in the present environment, if you're friends with any business brokers, you go to their Facebook profile or you go to their LinkedIn profile, they're bitching about stuff like this, where they're getting emails from people who have done whatever research in the world. And this is a primary example of how garbage into the fishbowl, whoever floods the fishbowl with information, sets expectations on the part of parties. So I got this email. He sent me two emails. I responded to the first one politely with a standard email response. And buyers get frustrated because we can't give you what does not exist. So let's just go through what he asked for. He asked for this is his buy box. He asked for outdoor surfacing, hardscaping, pool deck contracting, residential versus commercial. He asked for, which by the way, there's a barrier of entry here. There's a licensing issue. With pool deck contracting. So that's the first filter he may or may not qualify. And because he's from overseas, he's not going to qualify for. He wants Orlando, very competitive market. There's a lot of buyers moving there from all over the country. Benefit of COVID, the state exploded. He wants auditable SD&E. Now, this is confusing, but if you put auditable into an email to a broker, that's problematic because auditable means you want a third party to have reviewed the work of another CPA to determine whether the books and records are accurate. 21 years, I've never seen that. Even on larger transactions, we don't see auditable books. Provable, yes. They want 3 years tax returns. Now, you would assume as a buyer who's never bought a business that everybody has tax returns. Yeah, they probably do, but the tax returns for most small businesses, like it or not, are prepared for tax basis. They are not prepared for selling basis. We are trying to fix that. There is a lot of people, financial planners and business brokers and CEPAs begging people. You go back to some of my earliest videos, you'll see that when I go through the top 10 things a seller can do to get the maximum price, I talk about books and records, books and records, books and records. And yet today, when you check the MLS, less than 20% of the listings will have tax returns on them. Um, Sellers are inundated by people like me, by their own friends. A lot of sellers, particularly the baby boomers, do not live on the internet. So they're not getting education. And a lot of people don't talk about business at cocktail parties. I was at a cocktail party last night, didn't talk about business to anybody, not even one of the transaction attorneys I ran into. It's just not something, hey, nice drink, nice tie. Hey, could you clean up your books and records? That does not happen. And the CPAs generally are frustrated with business owners who just tell them, "Hey, I don't want to pay taxes." So right off the bat, we're striking out before we get to item number four. He wants an established crew, stable subs. Well, in the present environment, post COVID, where people got paid to paid to basically do nothing, we have a really, really, really hard time finding people to do work. Um, that is the consequence of the social welfare state. Um, and the consequence of high cost of living. And in a market like Orlando, you want to live in Orlando, the cost of living in Orlando is dramatic. So one of the unintended consequences of everybody moving here was that people can't afford to live in the city. Hell, my own admin is moving from Orlando to out here in Lakeland for an affordability issue. So if you're making 50, 60, $70,000 a year, really hard to live in the Orlando market. And that's what laborers or tradesmen generally make at the worker level, that amount of scratch. So you're probably looking in the wrong pond if you're looking in Orlando. Track record, 5 years operating with identifiable lead sources, transferable sale. I really don't know what that means. What I think that translates to is, hey, I don't want the business to be the owner. But look, if you're looking at a $120,000 business in terms of cash flow, that business is probably 5 to 700,000. It's probably primarily the owner and the owner's relationship. So um, again, you're limiting what's available. And then finally, a selling price between 1.5 and 2.5. Go to the bottom. He's also asking the seller to wait 6 to 12 months for an E2 visa. So he has basically asked for something that does not exist. Um, It used to exist, but multiples are not static. Supply and demand is real. I just hung up with my business partner and CEO, and I said, "Hey, man, what was the listing count 10 years ago?" And he says, "I think it was 5,000 listings in Florida." As of an hour ago is 2,111, literally less than half of what it used to be. So why? Well, I thought there was a seller tsunami. There isn't. There may be wealth transfer that occurs, and wealth transfer is, ESOPs, it's selling to children, it's shutting the business down, it's selling the business, it's going for an IPO or selling to a private equity group. All those things are exits. There is a transfer. It will occur. But as you go downstream at the stuff this guy's looking for, those people are going to have a hard time selling. Not because they don't want to, because they can't. The number of 60 and 70-year-old men and women I'm meeting that are not prepared for retirement um, is probably the lion's share. You have to remember as a buyer that these people have gone through tremendous trauma in terms of economics in the last 20 years. There was the Great Recession, there was COVID, there was war, there was inflation, there was 9/11 for some of these people. And those events don't happen in a vacuum. They occur, the businesses recover. They recover mostly with their own capital because once the business goes south, the banks don't lend to them. They rebuild, and just when they're about to get some success and start cash flowing again, there's a second crisis that occurs. So this volatility has created some real challenges for sellers and constricted the amount of inventory. So what happens when there's no inventory? The prices of businesses go up. Um, I had a listing for $350,000 the other day, perfect books and records, tax returns, and his margins have gone up every year. Now, the SBA is going to do the deal, but the SBA underwriter is looking at it and goes, hey, why was there a $2,000 decrease in revenue? Now the margin's up 20,000, but the revenue is off $2,000. And this freaking guy is asking me why the revenue was down. And I said, well, what about the margin? Two things. One is that the underwriter is uneducated. Two, they're skittish. They're skittish because their businesses too. On their balance sheet are bad loans, credit card, auto, and a constricting and volatile future because they lend on a 10-year note. So they're wanting to make sure that that note is tenable. They have their ratios, but they also want to make sure the deal is tenable. Now, what I believe is about to happen is we will see people come to market because they have to. They're not going to get what they want. Now, to my peers out there who don't have a strong balance sheet, so you boutique business brokers out there, you're going to constrict. You're going to be a little bit more disconcerting. You're not going to be able to take as much listings. So the sellers, you better be making sure that your business broker is doing a hell of a lot more than putting the listing on three websites. And they got to have the money to do it. The strength of the business broker's balance sheet is going to be vital over the next 2 years. There is going to be a contraction. You will not see the seller tsunami happen the way that the prognosticators have forecasted. It's there. I'm saying it. I'm just throwing it out there for you guys to think about. So, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. Let me know. I can be reached at 321-287-0349 or call me 321-287-0349 or email me at mike@tworld.com.